this is a multi-stakeholder game.
Where do you see the frictions are there in delaying the early supplier involvement?
The time to market is really becoming very, very challenging.
Probably the context or the fear of the data security, how the data that is designed or the components that are already validated or designed, how secure they are.
India's mobility landscape is rapidly evolving, fueled by electrification, connected systems, and stringent regulatory timelines. In such a high-velocity environment, accelerating time to market has become not just competitive edge, but a survival imperative. And one of the most effective levers to achieve this is early supplier involvement, a practice where suppliers become strategic co-creators from the earliest design stages. In this edition of India Leadership Talks, we are joined by Mr. Kartikeya Joshi, who is President and Business Head at Create Uno Minda Limited, a global Tier 1 supplier known for its technology-driven portfolio and OEM partnerships. And he's joined by Mr. Mohammed Azmathullah, who is Senior Sales Director, India Customer Solution experience at Dassault Systèmes, who brings over 20 years of experience leading digital transformation and ecosystem enablement across automotive and industrial domains. Today, together they will explore how early design collaboration backed by virtual product development and intelligent platforms is shortening the innovation cycles and boosting product agility. Hello and welcome to India Leadership Talks. Today we are joined by Mr. Kartikeya Joshi and Mohammed Azmathullah from Dassault Systèmes. Kartikeya, will first come to you and would like to understand from you, because Uno Minda work deeply with OEMs from different components like lighting, mechatronics and safety systems. What does early supplier involvement means to you and how the program in the real world are shaping up?
Thank you, Deepanshu. First of all, let's try and understand what is early supplier engagement and why OEMs are looking for it. I think there are two scenarios in which OEM does the early supplier engagement. So a normal scenario for any business is to get into an RFI, RFQ stage where SOR is more or less defined. In an early supplier engagement, OEM works with some lead suppliers to define these SORs for their upcoming programs. The second scenario is when the advanced engineering group of an OEM wants to try out few features, put it on their vehicle and put some function demonstrators. So these are two scenarios in which an OEM normally does advanced or early supplier engagement. From an Uno Minda perspective, I think we are very excited about this opportunity because it helps us to tailor-made our solutions for the OEM. I think that's one advantage. The second is that it also gives us a lot of time to plan the right product launch, product quality, and increasingly as automotive electronics and power electronics products are getting introduced into the vehicle, it also gives a fair chance to detail out the requirement both from system integration as well as from regulation perspective.
Got it. Azmath, you often say, it's transformation is not about numbers. It has to rethink how we work. So how is your experience, how platforms like 3D Experience is enabling early engagement with the suppliers and OEMs?
Thank you, Deepanshu. I'm glad that you brought a topic of transformation. Primarily, transformation is not just about numbers. Transformation is all about a change that we bring in the whole value network and the whole, all the specific stakeholders in the full value network, right? So that transformation inculcates the change in the way we work, the change in the way we collaborate, and also the mindset change that we need to drive across the value chain. It involves how the collaboration can really change the way we work, how we reduce the non-value added activities, how we can integrate further in terms of the data and the collaboration happens. And also it talks about how do we share a common objectives to grow together, right? The growth ambition comes there. So the transformation inculcates and involves all these different aspects. That's where I always feel it is not just about the numbers as an outcome. It all about the way this whole transformation is being driven. So now coming to the second part of your question, Dassault Systems through its 3D experience platform is always working towards how we bring all the stakeholders together into one platform while you execute a new car program or new automotive program, and how do you really ensure the reduction in time of collaboration, reduction in time of the data that goes between the stakeholders, and also have an early involvement of all the stakeholders in the product development cycle, so that the product development gets efficient through its validation process, and also it translates to how effectively it can go to the manufacturing context. So it covers the end-to-end value chain or the life cycle of the product development, including all the stakeholders together. So there is a fundamental objective of 3D experience platform. With the platform approach, we always try to bring everybody together on one platform, keeping the data security and all other aspects intact. And again, as a next step, we also now have come up with our 3D experience on cloud as a SaaS, as a software as a service, which even enhances whatever I said as a new transformation that is happening in this whole industry.
Right. Kartikeya, you have worked with global companies like Bosch in the safety division, and now you're working with Minda very rigorously. How has been your experience in terms of the cultural shift and operational, basically when it comes to become the early partner in terms of designing with the OEMs and become that very crucial part of the journey of the product development?
I think great question. So first of all, let's look at how the innovation as a process is handled in some of the global tier 1 MNCs as compared to an Indian focus MNC like Minda. So for example, if I talk about Bosch or Conti or any of these large tier 1 MNCs, they have a tiered R&D process which starts with a research wing, which is normally a corporate research wing, followed by an advanced engineering, then an organization which makes platform, and then the customer team or the customer engineering team that applicates this platform. In most of the cases, this customer application team or the customer engineering team is housed in the target markets. But rest of the innovation is primarily driven by big markets, mainly Europe, USA, Japan, and increasingly also China. So you can say that most of the upstream innovation activity or the upstream product marketing activity happens centered around these big markets in locations which are outside India.
Right.
And most of the downstream activities then happen in the India market. Contrast this to company like Minda. For us, the core market is India. So our entire innovation process end to end is set up based out of India. We do both upstream product marketing activities, which talks about looking at the growing technology market, understanding its relevance for India, doing an early engagement with an OEM, aligning our product roadmaps with their product roadmaps, and then doing forward investment in our R&D. At the same point of time, we also do our downstream marketing process out of India to successfully then launch these innovations for India market. So, I mean, in a nutshell, if I have to say, then I would say that the main contrast is what is the focus market for which you are doing innovation. For a company like Minda, we are focused on India market, and our mandate is to innovate for India and then from India for the world. I think that's where the basic difference comes out of.
Azmath, what is your opinion what just Mr. Joshi has spoken about? And also you have led a lot of transformations in automotive and aerospace sectors. What has been your experience in terms of where do you see the frictions are there in delaying the early supplier involvement?
Yeah, first of all, I'm very inspired by what he said, and also it resonates well with design in India, design for the world. I think Kartikeya has mentioned very aptly, very nicely, the way that they are focusing on Indian market and also catering to the global requirements, right? So that's a great thing. I really appreciate, and we're glad to be working with Minda and team, and Kartikeya and his team. So now coming to the transformations in different segments, yes, we have been working a lot in the context of early supplier involvement, right? And we've been doing that in many things, as you rightly said, in automotive and also in the aerospace context. But if you look at what could be the probable inhibitors, probable elements that probably will not enable easily for having this supplier involvement could be the OEMs have to get their complete preliminary design done, then probably we look at having the suppliers involvement. Could be there's some of the thought process that they might have, but currently it is changing. It's not the case. Second is probably the context or the fear of the data security. How the data that is designed or the components that are already validated or designed, how secure they are when we work with different suppliers. That could be another aspect that usually OEMs look at. And the third aspect is, will it be possible to have this involvement into the overall program governance context, right? So can I bring them into the program governance? Would it really work to have a greater collaboration and updates in the overall concepts to the manufacturing context? Will it help or not, are the different questions that were arising earlier. But now the things are changing. Now all these things are becoming a primary focus or the primary objectives of all the OEMs in the context of reducing the product development lifecycle, all right? So now I think whole world is working towards how do they reduce the new product development lifecycle involving all the stakeholders right from the beginning. That's where is the early supplier involvement comes into the context. And now, thankfully, our platforms like 3D Experience platform, other technology solutions are helping them to get there, right? By having these suppliers early in the cycle, establishing the right context of program governance with all the stakeholders involved, establishing the right software tools and solutions which will help to have the data security and seamless collaboration between the parties. All these are getting enabled now. And as you rightly said in the question when you asked, we have already done that in many places, both in automotive and aerospace industries. And we are looking forward to have this happening through our solution offerings across all the different companies in the automotive segment.
Right. So how can digital continuity can help in design, validation, and supply chain to streamline all these processes, which is quite complex? So first, Mr. Joshi, you can complete this and then we can come.
Yes. Yeah, so as I think Azmath was saying that, for example, if you look at the entire product life cycle management process, this is a multi-stakeholder game. And I think it has primarily two aspects to it. One is that how these stakeholders are interacting with each other seamlessly to deliver a product which is optimized on QCDD parameters. But what is also more important increasingly, because I think the time to market is really becoming very, very challenging. At the same point of time, there is a very complex ecosystem play that is coming into picture. So what you ideally need is a unified platform that is able to provide this seamless interaction and integration for all these stakeholders. So I think to that extent, I think the digital continuity is essential now with the way also the complexity of the supply chain that we are talking about. I mean, and at the same point of time, what it also provides is a signature when you are also want to establish a very robust product quality, because across the supply chain, then you are able to actually see what are the key elements of the product development, which is drawings as well as your BOMs, which are shared seamlessly across the relevant supply chain partner to deliver a high quality product.
Azmath, your viewpoint?
Yeah, I think digital continuity has become the important aspect now, right? It has become the base, right? Earlier, the design, simulation, and the manufacturing studies used to happen in sequence. Yep. But now I think they're all happening right from the beginning. And while these are happening, the supplier collaboration is across the layers of these particular product development steps. And I think that's when the need of solutions which will enable them to have this digital continuity well established with some aspects like unified data model, where you have the changes happening in any stage of the product development are well notified, well within the loop of the product development, and quick measures are taken not to avoid any major impact of the changes that are happening, right? So, for example, if you are doing some simulation and you understood that out of the simulation they need some design change, how quickly that can come to the design change aspect, at the same time how quickly that can be further taken up for your production and this parts sourcing aspect, right? So the supplier, that's where, as the context of the discussion, the supplier collaboration right from the beginning till the complete manufacturing, sometimes even aftermarket, is quite essential, and digital continuity becomes the base for doing this, and solutions and platforms which enable them are becoming mandatory in the current scenario. And to add to that, probably to add to how we get there is, I think the solutions and the platforms that are coming with as a SaaS offering on the cloud are really enabling to achieve this. And at the same time, to look at another side of the data and data security and all that, it is evident the way the SaaS platforms are evolving and the enhancement and improvement that have happened, they offer better security than having your own environments and managing the data. Rather, the SaaS platforms are coming up with such a data security aspects that is enabling this digital continuity and the collaboration at even better levels of efficiency.
Right. Yep. Kartikeya, Minda is not just designing products and supplying, but is also itself a very big manufacturing company, and you manufacture different kind of parts. What has been your examples in terms of early supplier involvement when it comes to your suppliers? How can scale and efficiently high quality products?
Yeah, so I think great question, and that we are a tier 1 auto component supplier. So we get our money when we ship out profitable, high quality, innovative products out of our production line. So for us, I think design for manufacturability is extremely critical, and I think this is certainly with a complex product that now we are incubating within India market, and early supplier involvement is becoming extremely essential. I can give an example of camera manufacturing. So I think this is, we are currently one of the very few Indian tier 1s who started doing complete manufacturing of camera out of India. We have an state-of-art autonomous line based out of India. And not only from a design perspective, where you choose which are the key semiconductor component supplier that you have to engage with, but at the same point of time, you have to take care that for building such high precision manufacturing, how do you early engage the tooling suppliers, the manufacturing technology suppliers, and also not only that, how do you also make sure that your plant, both capex and opex, are very well aligned with the expectation on product quality. So I believe such early supplier engagement for such high quality automotive electronics product is becoming more and more relevant. In case of camera, what we made sure is that we within digitally we designed the line while we were designing our product. We also set up a small proto line just to make sure that we are able to train our workforce even before we do a full-fledged investment into the manufacturing line. And we did early supplier engagement of all critical to quality process, manufacturing process parameter. I think in some cases we were able to find suppliers in India. In some cases, like for an active alignment process, we have to also go to Taiwan to find the supplier. The same is true for the tooling supplier. We had our standard tooling supplier. We have to really upgrade them to make the tooling parts, mechanical tooling parts relevant for camera, and we were able to integrate them well into our design process. So when we were doing design to theory approach, where we are looking at DFMEA, PFMEA and DFM, at that point of time, we were able to do an early supplier engagement so that when we are delivering our first engineering sample or our final product sample that will go into PPAP is as per product quality.
Interesting, quite interesting. Now we have talked about Minda's upstream and downstream value chain, and largely these are for large product. But how, as the industry, question to is both of you, Azmat and Kartikeya, how do we institutionalize this project? Like basically, how do we this ESI comes across the value chain? How do we do that? What is your view on that?
Would like to go first?
Yeah. Yes, I think first of all, why we need this is, I think, well understood in the industry. Right? It is well informed, well understood, and everybody wants to do this. Why is clear. Then how you do this is the point. I think many of the OEMs
also
have mastered
the intent, because the trust is very important.
Correct. Yeah. So that's where in aspect of how even the element of trust and element of shared vision, element of collaboration, yes, everything. So all this would come into. So now all the OEMs along with their supply network or the supply value chain, they are now really getting into this aspect. Now if I take one example, I'll probably take one specific technical example, where if I look at model-based systems engineering, because as Kartikeya has touched upon the electronics part of the manufacturing or the automotive manufacturing. So when it comes to electronics, there is a lot of need of this model-based systems engineering to be established, and that requires a lot of collaboration of all the systems that gets connected, well simulated, well validated with its functional models, and eventually to the physical model and the simulation to happen. I think it calls for a greater collaboration to happen and early supplier involvement to happen in the product development life cycle. So again, I'll come back to my point is to achieve this, first of all, there needs a shared vision, there needs a collaborative working mindset to be developed, there needs a trust to be established between all the stakeholders, the way they work and share the data and communicate the aspects, and also to have a program governance which inculcates or which includes all these aspects together. It goes through a formal program governance process which includes also the suppliers into the context, and then at the end have a platform which enables this, which enables all the aspects that I was mentioning, and bring all the domains like MBSEs, Kartik has mentioned about DFA, DFM, right? All these aspects has to be well validated in a collaborative platform context, leveraging the solutions that are available. And I would say that now the market is changing, the people's mindset is changing, and they are open for more and more adoption of SaaS applications. Earlier, people used to have a lot of question about the data security, how we collaborate and all that, but now SaaS is becoming one of the strong ways to establish this digital continuity and collaborative working environment. And I think most of the companies, even other industries also are opening up to adopt to these SaaS applications, which enhances the computing context, not only computing context, but also the data security context in the way that we operate.
I think Deepanshu, Azmath made great points about how it could be enabled. I would still like to touch a bit upon the why part, right? I think um, if I look at Indian automotive ecosystem, at least from an Uno Minda perspective, I think there are two things which are increasingly happening. The entire automotive ecosystem is becoming very competitive, and consumers are becoming very demanding. So the time to market is getting squeezed, right? And I think now we have, because I think people are also getting more and more exposed to the way the vehicles are getting built in China. So the unprecedented demand of time to market is also coming on Indian ecosystem. So I think time to market is one thing. The second is an increasing demand of automotive electronics products. So the overall electronics and power electronics content in the vehicle is rising, right? Which has its own sort of challenges in terms of when you are making a mechanical part, the supply chain complexity in the entire NPD process is not so complex. The number of suppliers at a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 who are participating to deliver a product is fairly limited. When you are talking about an automotive electronics where you have an embedded as well as a software component into it, or when you are talking about power electronics, the number of stakeholders who have to work together to converge on a statement of requirement that is very specific to a market is becoming more and more complex. So for such complex product, and early engagement helps to narrow down the product specification, tune it with respect to the market, and make sure that everyone in the supply chain has enough time to deliver a rock star product for the OEM.
Got it. Kartikeya, you yourself have been entrepreneur and technologist. When do you see is the right time to commit for the product engineering and in terms of getting the engineering resources right?
So I think it's a very interesting question, and for me, it's always an iterative process. So from an organization perspective, you have your own view of the technology market, and basis that you make your own product and technology roadmaps. Basis that you engage with OEM and try to find the niche in which you can possibly go through, right? I think that's one lever to look at. Then if there is a match, then probably you start to move forward. The second is that, and I think this is something that I really appreciate about Uno Minda culture, that we always like to innovate together with customer. So whatever we innovate, we iteratively also do a fact check with the customer that whether it is making sense. I think as an entrepreneur, I call it the product market fit, right? So, and earlier you do it, the lesser disappointment that you have later in your decision making. So when we do this iterative process, we understand that what is the exact pain of the customer, and while if we understand that pain of the customer, and we think that if we solve this pain, it could basically translate into a good product for us that we can scale up to a reasonable sales, I think we start investing more. But at the same point of time, we also look at the overall time to market scenario, and we also look at what are the key competencies which are required to deliver those products. Once this holistic view about the product development is clear, at that point of time, we basically take a decision to invest more, go ahead and acquire our anchor customer, make it successful in the market, and then start scaling up that business.
Right. Azmath, in your experience, when do you see the right time to commit to the right engineering resources and product fit?
Yeah, I think it's right at the start, right?
Got it.
That's where is the whole debate. The point is, if you have to get to a stage to reduce the NPD cycle time, which is the key objective that every OEM in India carry today. There's a lot of references were set globally in the market. Kartikeya has mentioned about China. They've set a different reference of a product development cycle of a new product, right? Keeping that into the context, and it becomes very evident and important that we involve the stakeholders from day one, right? And the whole planning, execution, governance, everything has to happen together. And it's not only about the design part of it, engineering part of it, also about the manufacturing part of it. Like you do early manufacturing ability studies. That's where is DFM comes in. With DFM, you do study in advance and ensure that the complete development is happening in context of all the parameters are well validated, and you don't get to surprises when you move across the product development life cycle, right? That is the whole essence of this topic of early supplier involvement and also the digital continuity. At the same time, at the end, the core objective of meeting the core objective, which is the reduction in the product development cycle, right? The NPD has to be reduced.
Looking at where do you see the biggest opportunities lies for ESI specifically, seeing that the new value chains like electric vehicles and connected mobility and new architect is happening?
Yeah, today we've got right examples. EV certainly demands it. EV is in fact this electric vehicle development has given a great opportunity for not only to the startups but also the existing OEMs and the supplier network understand the need of this involvement. The connected vehicle story, again, you need to have the complete data of everything of each and every vehicle that you have, that you manufacture, and there are many suppliers who are providing the necessary tool sets for this connected. And also now the SDVs are becoming more and more predominant, and he has mentioned the way the electronics have enormously increased in any automotive product development these days. So all these even SDVs would demand for having more and more involvement of the different suppliers, not only in the context of a component but also in the context of design, in the context of software tools, everything. The supplier collaboration cuts across the different segments, and because of all these new things coming up, which are revolutions that are happening, I think more and more the supplier involvement in the product development cycle is becoming a need, and also it is changing the way the people are thinking about this involvement, and they are coming out of all the inhibitors or coming out of all the questions that they used to have and able to get to that situation.
Right. Kartikeya, what is your message to the new product leaders when it comes to the partnership with the suppliers, the design, the simulation, and the topic that we're talking about, early supplier involvement? How do they make things efficient?
Yeah, I think there are, I would say, 2 or 3 key points. First is that I think it's more important, and especially true for NPD, that you will never get enough resources, right? So I think as a product leader, the traditional way to develop a product is that you start scaling up competency in-house. I think the modern way is that you adopt an ecosystem approach where you are finding the right partners and try to create a win-win. And specifically, I think that automotive supply chain is very well matured. There are tier 2s. I mean, I talk about these, we call it the class A suppliers, basically the semicon suppliers, or even the software suppliers who are willing to collaborate to create a winning solution for the market. So find the right win-win opportunity and get yourself the right ecosystem partners who can help you to advance your product life cycle. I think that's my first message. My second message is that, for example, try to find the product market fit as early as possible. And the only way to do it is that you need to have your innovations, which is constantly validated by customer. And over the time, what I have found is that an ability to put the first prototype on table is extremely important. And it is not always a physical prototype, but now I think there are very modern simulation tools which are available, where you can and AR, VR tools are available, with which you can let customer know that what is that you can possibly build and what it means for the customer. The last point is, and this is specifically for India market, I think last 2 points, I think one is specific to India market, that as a product leader, you should always consider cost as one of the design element. I've seen many product leaders, they design a product that let me first make the engineering proto and then I will optimize the cost. It doesn't work for India. You need to consider cost as one of the critical design element. The last thing is that you need to have a 2x2 matrix where you, on one axis, you look at the technology complexity, and on the other axis, you should look at customer experience, so CX. And the products which are high either on technology complexity or which are high on consumer experience, that definitely demands an early supplier engagement with the OEM, because there are too many variables that need to be solved. So they should be ambitious to take up these projects, but they should also be cognizant of the life cycle that this product takes to mature. So it's very important that they establish an early engagement with an OEM to fine tune their SOR and identify the interfaces, but at the same point of time, they also establish an early interface with their supplier pool to make sure that they have a winning product in the end.
Right. Kartikeya pointed out two important things. First, early product market fit and cost. These are the two things that really need to be solved for any new product leader. So Azmath, question to you is how do we do it through software?
Yeah, say any company, when they adopt the digital solutions, the first objective would be how do we reduce the time to market, and also how do I execute with cost effectiveness, right? So these are the core objectives of it. Now, Kartikeya has also mentioned one point of how the validation can happen in a virtual environment. So primarily, the right platform-based solutions offer mechanisms for you to do a complete virtual twin of everything that we do. Especially 3D Experience platform from Dassault Systèmes offers to our customers a mechanism to create a virtual twin of everything that you do. Not only in the context of design, but also in the context of supplier management, supplier collaboration, sourcing process, manufacturing, simulation. Everywhere we can create a virtual twins of everything with the parameters and data points that are associated with the virtual twins of that particular context or the domain, and by which you will all work towards reducing prototypes, ensure the material circularity context. You also do a simulation for sustainability, sustainable product development, by which it helps you to reduce the cost and at the same time bring the efficiency in reducing the cycle time, right? So, and at the same time, coming to the market fit topic, yes, you right from the beginning, you have a mechanism with platform solutions like this from 3D Experience platform. Your requirements are defined right in the beginning, and those requirements are well validated at every step of your product development lifecycle and in a collaborative environment, because of which you are able to validate and ensure and simulate every stage that am I ensuring the market fit or not, because my requirements are defined well in the beginning itself.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for hosting us.
It was nice talking to you. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
This conversation delivered a clear takeaway. Faster time to market starts with supplier at the drawing board. Kartikeya shared how Minda is moving from vendor to co-create shipping design, manufacturability and launch readiness from day one. Azmath emphasized on how digital tools are breaking silos, enabling real-time collaboration and smarter decisions across the value chain. So the bottom line, early supplier involvement isn't a tactic, it's a competitive edge. And in India, race towards EVs and smart mobility, the future belongs to those who design, decide and deliver together.